This is a Mainz Gladius, a Roman sword made in the 15th century BCE. Of the many Roman swords recovered, this specific one is perhaps the most famous, being known as the Sword of Tiberius after the artistic golden sheath depicting the famous Roman general. It was recovered near the city of Mainz, Germany, which is how the blade earned its name. Currently, the sword is displayed in the British Museum of the United Kingdom. This sword is interesting specifically from a humanist perspective because it embodies the evolution of military warfare. What's fascinating about this type of sword is the contrast it holds against prior historical weaponry, and the unique presence it holds specifically in the Roman legions. Prior to the Romans, the most dominating military tactic was the Greek failing style of warfare. Soldiers marched side by side with large shields and massive spears that prevented anyone from breaking the line. While highly effective during its time, this style of warfare had one major drawback. The thousands of hoplite soldiers that maintained the structure had to move very slowly to maintain position. This only became more of an issue with larger armies, and it became very clear that large phalanx forces became inflexible when in combat. Beyond that, the weaponry of the hoplites were designed to keep enemies at a distance. Take note of the long spears employed by the soldiers. These weapons were clunky to use at close range, and again, if an opponent came too close, the line would be very susceptible to breaking. The change of Roman perspective when it comes to warfare can be painted most clearly by the Mainz Gladius. While the large shields of the hoplites were maintained, the method of attack differed wildly. Rather than focusing on a slow, impenetrable force that marched forward, the Roman legion was divided into blocks, each with their own commanding officer working to achieve a common goal. The weapons of the legionnaires also changed to favor close-range, swift combat. Weapons like the Mainz Gladius were far smaller than the phalanx spears, and consequently much easier to handle. While spears were used, they were not used to hold a position, but instead to throw at the enemy and create weaknesses in their positions. These changes to warfare show a clear shift into a more aggressive, close-range form of combat that the forces such as the hoplites and others across Europe were unprepared to deal with, and so it was devastating to fight against for the rest of the known world. Seeing this evolution of warfare, it is clear how Rome could expand as voraciously as it did. And the introduction of such weapons has undoubtedly changed the course of history.